Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. This is part of an ongoing series of webinars we're doing that we're taking culinary medicine out of the classroom and into your kitchen. So fun stuff. My name's Eric Vorkepper. I'm the online education manager at the University of Montana, and I'll be helping facilitate our session today. So just to give you a brief overview of what to expect, I'll introduce our speaker. Michael will give you a brief overview of what culinary medicine is and what that entails. We'll be talking about some different educational opportunities that are available to you through the University of Montana. And then we'll be getting into some practical applications of the discipline, which is the fun part of this webinar. We will save about 10 minutes at the end of our session to field some questions. So as your questions come up, please feel free to drop those in the chat box, and we'll do our best to field everybody's questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker. He is a cardiologist, professional chef, author, college professor. Please welcome Dr. Michael Fenster.
Thanks, Eric. And again, thank all of you for taking time out of your schedules to be here with us today. I am so excited about this one. This is fall. I love fall. Why do I love fall? A whole lot of reasons. Almost every single one of them have to do with food. This is the time of year we're getting into celebrations. It's a time of feast. It's a time of gatherings. And in the tradition of the human species, the gatherings this time of year revolve around food and family and friends. And so I just get totally excited about all the opportunities that we have to share, to celebrate, to engage in food and fellowship. One of the things that I wanted to let all of you know about is that, as Eric mentioned, this is the practical application of what we teach. And we have launched our online course. We've had some incredible graduates, physicians who are setting up their own culinary medicine programs now. We've got chefs who are incorporating this into how they feed the public. So really, really tremendous. And Eric will be putting up some links in the chat box that you can follow along. But you can also head over to www.chefdrmike.com and look up. We've got more detail about the course. We've got some downloads. You can download the syllabus. Also, this is the holiday season, so bear with me. I'm going to be doing a new thing today. I'm going to be trying to share my screen, and hopefully that will work here. So I'm going to share, and hopefully now you can all see a couple of the books here. And in the holiday spirit, we're going to be giving these away. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll get an email and a link. And if you don't, go over to the website and follow me on Instagram. And this month we'll be giving away a book, The Fallacy of the Calorie. And then next month, to close out, hopefully on a positive note, I think, to put it politely, the very trying year that 2020 has been, we're going to give away a complete set of all 3 books. So again, just head on over there. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram. And when you do, you'll get access to all the recipes and to all of the different kinds of foods and things and food picks that we share as well. And speaking of the foods and things that we share, we did get some questions last time that we didn't get to go to, and that had to do with our roasted butternut squash soup. And that I will show here. Here's an example of it. And Eric's going to put up, there's a recipe. This will be a link to the recipe. And we've also got a link to the YouTube video. I have a YouTube channel, and there's a practical medicine culinary kitchen that we have up, where I can walk through some of the bits and bobs that we talk about in the recipe as well. So this recipe is for a curry squash soup with roasted corn and crab. And just as we talked about with the other recipe, if you want it, there are ways to make it vegetarian. Certainly you could take the crab out. Our other recipe was with butternut squash. You can certainly substitute, again, kind of a great thing this time of year is to try and vary the different squashes that you're using. I like the curry in this with the crab because it's naturally a little sweeter. It's got a little bit of chestnut flavors to it. So that really, I think adds another dimension to this as well. And one of the other things that this time of year brings that I definitely want to touch on is stress. So if you're the person that's going to be, cooking for folks, if you've got the onus of being the designated holiday meal preparer, gosh, that can get stressful. And it certainly gets stressful in a professional kitchen. We often term those busy times the weeds when we start to get behind in orders. And so we have strategies from the professional kitchen to deal with that. And I want to share a few of those with you today to hopefully take some of the stress out of your holiday. Let's face it, folks, right? This year has been stressful enough, hasn't it? The last thing we need to do is add more stress to ourselves on what's supposed to be a relaxing gathering of food, family, and friends. One of the core concepts that we use in the kitchen to give us the greatest chance of success with the least amount of stress, and you may have heard of this before, it's a process called mise en place, and that's simply French for meaning everything in its place. And a bonus for attending the webinars, you're now learning a little French as well. That always sounds good. So mise en place, again, meaning everything in its place, is about being prepared. So to give you an example, if you look at the recipes that we'll be talking about, and I'm going to talk through how I use a little mise en place to prepare the recipes. But even with the soup recipe and the soup video, you'll see that I have everything done ahead of time. So I have my onions cut, my carrots cut, my celery cut, so that when I put them into the pot, again, another French word that's called mirepoix, which is simply French for cut carrot, celery, and onion. And when I put them, I'm not trying to cut my onions at the same time I'm adding them, and then the onions are cooking and they're getting overdone, and I'm trying to hurry up with the carrots. That's a nightmare. And, this concept is really something that we can use, and I certainly apply in all phases of life. So to change gears for a little bit, I work as an interventional cardiologist. When I get called at 2 a.m. in the morning and I'm going in and they're wheeling the patient in with an acute heart attack, we're not scrambling about looking for syringes. We're not going, hey, where's the cleaning solution? Do you have the catheters I need? Oh no, they're still on the loading dock. Before patients ever come in there, we're prepared with set trays. So when that patient rolls in, we know what we're doing right away because time is heart muscle. If in a culinary perspective, I don't know if you ever watched that show on television. I know the producer, she's a great friend, Chopped. But basically the whole concept of that show is taking away mise en place from professional chefs. So they don't get to prepare, they don't get to do anything, and they're kind of thrown right into it, and you got 20 minutes to make a meal. And the process you see them go through is really mise en place. So what we are doing, the first thing we do, and I break this down into 3 parts, TPP. So think, stop, relax, and think. So this holiday, think about what you want to prepare. Are you going to have a turkey? If a turkey, how big? Depending on the size, it's going to take a certain amount of time to cook. Depending on the technique that you use, it will cook at different times. So think about that a little bit. What can I get locally? I don't want to be running out, Thanksgiving morning looking for those cranberries for the cranberry sauce. That should be done ahead of time. So I think about what I want. Then comes the P, I'm going to plan. What are the elements I could do ahead of time? We've talked about, and I think actually Eric has a link to the stocks, for example. So that's something that you shouldn't be making that day. That should be made up way ahead of time. As soon as I get those turkey bits, using those poultry bits, I'm getting the trim of the carrots and the onions that I'm using for things, and I've saved that. That stock can be made ahead of time, put in the freezer or the refrigerator if it's a couple of days. that's done for you. These vegetables that we'll be talking about and fruits that we'll be talking about in the next recipe, again, they can be chopped up, a day ahead of time, put in the refrigerator. In this recipe, we'll be using a pastry dough. If I'm making that has to sit overnight, that can easily be made a day, maybe two ahead of time. I can actually go ahead and make it about a week ahead of time this week and bring it out of the freezer and just defrost it on the day I need to use it. So this is the part where we plan. Sit down with a pen and pencil, or make some notes to yourself with your cell phone. Plan it all out. And again, when I go into an emergency from a medical perspective in the cardiac cath lab, I'm not thinking about, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to approach it this time? We have a set plan that we go in and we know we're going to take these pictures. It involves this artery. We're going to use that. We're going to go up with this catheter. This concept was really explained best to me when I was an interventional cardiology fellow. And I was with one of my mentors who is a giant in the field of cardiology. I had the great pleasure and honor to train under Eric Powers. And Eric was explaining this concept to me. And he goes, Mikey, he said, we go in and we do it the same way every time. When you're on a plane trip, which we all have to kind of remember maybe a year or two in the past when we were on planes and doing this, he said, you don't want your pilot to be trying new ways to land the aircraft with you on it, right? You want him to do it the same way he's been successful every single time. And that's the concept behind getting into and using mise en place to get behind this and learn the skill set. And you'll find when you start applying that to other areas of your life, things are going to get easier for you. And finally, the last step in mise en place is to prepare it. So again, and we'll talk about that in a recipe we're going to use, and what I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to pull up a little picture so you can see if this is something that kind of makes you a little hungry here. So we're going to do some Cranberry-apple-brie Beggars Purses. And this is something that is often made in a phyllo dough. I'm going to use a puff pastry. You can use either dough that you like. And I'm going to walk you through how to make that. Eric's going to put up that I have a little video on YouTube to also show you how to go ahead and actually make the purses, because it can be a little challenging to do that. And one of the things in this concept of mise en place is we're going to make our apple cranberry jelly ahead of time. And so that's the first thing. In applying mise en place, we're not going to try to do all of this in one day. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a simple apple cranberry jelly. And folks, you could stop right here. This is going to be absolutely delicious on the holiday table. Your friends and family are going to love it. You're going to absolutely wow them, and incredibly easy to do. Seems really sophisticated, but incredibly easy. So what that's going to involve, and a couple of tips here, is I use some cranberries, which are fresh, real whole this time of year. I'm going to get some fresh organic apples. Now, I like to use a sweeter apple in my apple cranberry blend, simply because the cranberries are so naturally tart. If you're looking for something that's really, really tart, you can use a different type of apple, like a Granny Smith. Again, part of it depends on what you can get, but apples are generally in abundance this season. A lot of good choices there. To that, we're going to add a little bit of orange juice. So again, a little bit of natural sweetness. I'm going to add a little bit of spice, and I've got the spice blends on the website. You can buy some pre-done spices if you like. Just make sure they're fresh, they're organic. I like to blend my own. If you can't find an apple pie spice, you can certainly use a pumpkin pie spice in this apple cranberry jelly. They're very similar into what they contain. And you can look on the website and see exactly the differences. I might use a little pumpkin pie spice, throw in a little bit of ground coriander to add to this. Basically, you're going to just put all this in a pot, bring it up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, and in 15 minutes, you're going to mix it up with an immersion blender, let it cool a little bit if you're going to use a food processor or a blender, and then put it in the fridge. And that is literally all there is to it. You can add an additional little bit of sweetness, which I do add in terms of about a tablespoon of maple syrup. It goes so well with the flavor profiles, adds a little bit of depth, adds a little bit of sweetness in the back notes. And again, you'll notice that this recipe, unlike a lot of the things you'll buy in the store, is not loaded with pure cane sugar. There's no pure cane sugar here. We're using natural sweeteners, orange juice, natural sweetness from the apples, and a little bit of maple syrup, which isn't high in sugar, but we're only using a tablespoon for the whole thing. And this brings up something we talk in culinary medicine, that if we are using sweeteners in the construction of our dishes, we try to use what I call sweeteners of redemption. So using pure cane sugar has no redeeming value. It is just pure sugar. When we add something like maple syrup, organic real maple syrup, it's actually a great source for our bodies to obtain manganese, which is a very vital mineral. So we do get some redemption there in terms of nutrition. We're also getting another layer of flavor, which is important beyond just sweetness. So I added, it's up to you if you want to add it. The choice is totally yours. And now if you want to elevate this, and I'm talking about, knock the socks off friends and family at the dinner table, you can make these beggars purses. How simple is it? Well, you saw what they look like. They look pretty kind of neat. They look sophisticated. They look like they're Michelin star quality, and they are. I'm going to give you the secret that they're pretty easy to make. So what we do is, and you can make them any size you want, but another tip in the kitchen is that I don't just measure things out, because if I told you to make a 6-inch round or a 4-inch round, part of that also depends on the thickness of the dough as you roll it out. So what I do with the puff pastry is I weigh out about 30 grams or so for each one. And then when they're the same weight, we know that there's a consistency in the product as well. So in the professional kitchen, and I encourage you to do this in your home kitchen as well. Again, it's something that just reduces that stress. If you weigh them out, they're all the same. Why is that important? Because they're going to cook the same. So when you pull them out, they're all going to look uniform, and you deliver a really uniform product that tastes great. So we take that little 30 grams of puff pastry, I'm going to hold it in my hand and just kind of thin it out into a disc. And then I'm going to really thin out the edges. And again, if Eric can pop up that YouTube link, that's going to show you how to do this in a very short video of a couple of minutes. And I'm just going to put a little dab of the apple cranberry jelly in. I'm going to take a little bit of brie. I like to use brie cheese. Again, you can use whatever flavors you like. A Gloucestershire, which is a little blue, and cheddar mix would be another lovely combination. Work really well in here as well. And I put anywhere from about kind of 5 to 8 grams of cheese in there. And then you're just going to pull it up. You're just going to twist it with a little clockwise motion. And then you're going to have a little ball on one end and a little tail on the other. And if you set it down, it's kind of going to look like an inverted balloon on a string. And from there, we take a little bit of chive and we just tie that around the base, cut it off, a little egg wash. And at this point, if you like, even before you put the chives on, once you've made the Beggars Purses, you can stick those in the freezer. So again, thinking ahead of time, using our mise en place, reducing our stress level. Again, you can do this days ahead of time. It's going to freeze really, really well. Before you want to serve them, bring them out, let them come up to room temperature, about probably 1 to 2 hours. Once they're ready, then you can time off with the chives, which just take us a few minutes. Put an egg wash on them, which is nothing more than you take an egg, you beat it, add a pinch of salt. It's going to give it a really nice shine and sheen to the finished product, and bake them off, for 20 minutes before you're ready to serve. It's that easy. And these make a wonderful starter. Just imagine how elegant that is, bringing that piping hot out. It's basically an individual brie en croûte or a brie in a puff pastry with a little bit of that jelly. Goes wonderful with a lot of the either white wines that you might serve, or a Pinot Noir or Beaujolais. Today, by the way, happy Beaujolais Thursday to everyone. Third Thursday in November. Beaujolais, fresh Beaujolais on the way. Great with Thanksgiving because it's a very fresh, fruit-forward, young wine. so it doesn't overpower anything. Goes great with the cheeses, and a meal such as this, a dish such as this goes great with turkey prepared anyway. So this makes a great starter. And actually, you only need one. I wouldn't recommend more than two per person. But you can also use it for dessert. So if you're going a little traditional and you want to use kind of a cheese and wine dessert course, wow, this is an elegant way to start the dessert. So at either the top or the tail of the meal, you can use, something like this, and then you've got it in your bag of tricks for any great holiday gatherings that you might have throughout the year. And I know I've run over a little bit from our allotted question time, but gosh, there's just so much to cover here. A lot of this, I made the video so you guys can go back at your leisure and you can review. The recipes are there. So I want to hopefully concentrated on the application of mise en place. So with all these resources for you, we've taken that holiday stress level down at least, a notch or two, because at the end of the day, hey, you may be the person preparing it, but it's about your enjoyment as well. And, nobody wants to eat food from a stressed out, cook, because they can feel that. They can feel that in the food. So if you're having a good time in the kitchen, because your stress level's low and you're putting out this incredible product, your guests are going to be happy, you're going to be happy, and they're going to be talking about you as a penultimate host for years to come. The downside of this, you will probably get stuck with doing it every year. I know I do, but I enjoy it. I love it. So if we've got any questions, I know we have just a few minutes left, but we'll go ahead and take them now.
Yeah, we have some questions that have been submitted as well. So let's start with those. Can you give an example from personal experience about how you use mise en place in preparing food for the holidays?
Sure. So I'll just walk you through this year's prep for me. So we're starting with an appetizer course, which will be the red curry soup, the curry, red squash soup that you have the recipe for. So you can dive right in. That's a favorite of mine, but the soup's done ahead of time. Soups like chilies, I think actually are better anywhere from 2 to 3 days after they're made. It just gives a chance for all those flavors. It's like it's like the holiday gathering themselves, right? Everybody comes in. If you have some new people there, I don't know if we're allowed to do this year, but in years past, right? It's a little awkward at first. Kind of everybody's sitting there looking at each other. Then a few people start to talk. And then after a little while, after a glass of wine or two, a couple of hors d'oeuvres, man, everybody's chatting it up, having a good time because they've all settled in. They've got to know each other. Hey, ingredients are just like us. They need to do that as well. They got to mingle a little bit. So you give that soup or that chili, if you make it for a Super Bowl occasion or whenever, give it an extra day or two to just sit in the fridge and mingle. It's actually going to be better, I think, than the day it's made. So that's made ahead of time. Stuffings, that's going to be done, the day before we're having, our Thanksgiving, which will actually be this weekend because some people have to be in hospitals working, and I'm one of them. So I'll be on call on Thanksgiving Day. So our sides, everything will be done up to just heating up the sides on the day. I make some homemade breads for our holiday as well. Those will be done ahead of time. And one of the great things about waiting a little bit is, especially when it comes to baked goods, fermentation is flavor. So the longer I can allow that fermentation process to take place, the tastier, the greater depth of flavor in the breads I make. So I'm going to do those ahead of time, and I'm going to stick them in the refrigerator. Why? It doesn't stop the rise of the breads. It doesn't stop the fermentation, but it slows it way down. And that's going to allow those breads time to deliver flavor. So as much slow cooking, as much as you can do ahead of time, those are the things that I do. So really on Thanksgiving, other than putting some stuff that's already done in the oven to heat and cook and reheating some things on the stovetop, the only thing I'm really doing on Thanksgiving Day is cooking the turkey.
Great. Michael, can you put other things in Beggars Purses?
Oh, sure. And that's why the name is a beggar's purse. Because beggar, what's the saying? Beggars can't be choosers. So in that little purse, it's just a little satchel
to hold whatever kind of goodness you have. And what's great about mastering this is then you can vary the fillings with what you get seasonally. So a springtime's Beggar's Purse might be all really fresh veg out of the garden. Something in the depth of winter might be sort of meat and potatoes, almost like a pasty. You know, in the fall, we're talking about, again, sort of the brie en croûte type of flavor. So yeah, you can absolutely vary it. And as I mentioned, you'll see recipes for this with phyllo dough. That's a favorite, and certainly you can use that. I like the puff pastry because these fillings to me really call to a brie en croûte, which is just such a classic. And everyone at the table is going to know, you know, about a wheel of brie, you know, in a puff pastry with a little bit of jam on top. But by doing these individually as well, that gets a little unwieldy at service for a bunch of people, you know, to chop into, and the cheese starts to run everywhere. When you do these little individual servings, one, you control portion sizes for your guests so they don't eat all the brie, or somebody doesn't eat all the brie and then doesn't have any room left for the main. Plus, I think in terms of service for a group of people, you know, it's a lot easier than a bunch of people reaching in to get a single kind of appetizer or starter.
Great. What is one thing every Thanksgiving celebration should have, Michael?
Thanks. So one of the things that we often forget, and it's easy, right? You see me get all excited about all the food, is to stop a moment. And I think this year is a good one, folks, to really stop with a moment and have that attitude of gratitude before we dive in. So whether it's maybe talking to folks who can't travel and it's a virtual thing before you sit down, and maybe it's the family and or friends that you're able to have gathered wherever you are. Just thanks. 2020 has been rough on all of us in various and sundry industries and various and sundry ways. And, you know, it's time to give thanks that it's almost over, number one. And we get to start afresh in just weeks now. You know, and I think it's also important, as we've talked about, and as we teach in our culinary medicine program, our mental attitude, our emotional state when we eat has demonstrable benefits or untoward effects on our health, irrespective of what we're eating. And so let's put all of ourselves in a position where we're actively, you know, engaging those healthful mechanisms, not only with what's in front of us in terms of offering, you know, quality, real, authentic foods, but also simply with our state of being. And that's easy to do by just being thankful.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Well, it looks like we're just about out of time. Do you have any closing thoughts or comments for the group?
I want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and joyous holiday season. We'll be back again next month. And again, from the bottom of my heart to you, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love to hear from you. So again, head over to the website, and you saw us address some questions that we didn't get to last time, and we'll continue to do that. And again, if there's things you want to see, or we're still kind of in the holiday phase next month as well, if there's something you want to see, you know, just leave some messages at the website, what you want to see. We're here for you. Culinary medicine, I teach it, we offer it, but culinary medicine is all about you. It's all about, you know, your individual food experience, your individual relationship with food, your health, your palate. So we're here for you, and we want to be a resource to answer that. So again, just thanks to everyone for being here. And Eric, thank you for doing such a great job hosting, and happy holidays to you, my friend.
Great. Well, thanks, Michael. You as well. Just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and just echo what Michael said. Hope you have a great holiday. Take care.
Bye-bye.